Hey up, from Racing DP here, and I did say yesterday and Thursday, I think, it's been a while since I've been doing some live streaming, and now I'm on for the third day in a row. So I have tried to get quite a bit of live streaming done, and today we're going to have a look at doing some time trials in the touring cars, and the reason for that is I'd like to try and top some more leaderboards if I could, but also I really do like the Mercedes touring car. And in our Friday night races, did a few races at a couple of tracks that made me think, oh, you know what, I wouldn't mind giving this car a go there. Now the track I really have in mind is Imola. That's what I'm going to sort of build up to, but I'm just going to start off with Donington Park, because a few weeks ago I did a bit of a sort of self-challenge to top the leaderboards in at Donington Park GP, and I managed to do it, apart from the classes where I didn't have the limited edition cars. I've now got the limited edition cars, so I want to take the Mercedes C Coupe to Donington Park. Now I haven't done any setup yet, so I do need to go into practice and have a look at that, but let's just have a look at what lap time we need. 121s. Okay, so we need to beat a 122 to get top. So we're going to go into practice at Donington Park so we can get the car set up to try and compete against that lap time. Find the car. There we go. So I'm going to actually select the car in here so I can pick the colour scheme I like. Number 7. I don't know why I like that one, I just do. Okay, so we're going to go with the Mercedes. Now obviously, like I said, I haven't done any setup on it at Donington Park yet, but I have got my base wheel settings already on the car. So we'll go into Donington Park and see how we get on. Now for anyone that is watching, it does mean that because I haven't put any setup on the car, it does mean that you are going to get to see what sort of setup changes I'm going to make. And there's something I'm planning in the near future. I've had a bit of an idea of something that I want to do. It's going to take for one of my friends to join me in it and basically go through every single piece of tuning setup that you can do and just have a look at what effect it has. Now we couldn't do it on all of the cars because that would take so bloody long, but we could do it on maybe 1 or 2 cars, but we shall have to wait and see. I haven't spoken to him about that one yet, so I don't know. Alright Steve, how you doing? Right, okay, now I am going to enlarge my screen in a moment, but I have got my iPad next to me, so if people do want to message me, they can. I know that Ray has offered to be my messaging assistant again, but for the moment on this session I need to do a bit of concentrating, so I am going to leave messages until I've finished like doing the laps I'm doing on track or what have you. Right, so I am going to enlarge the screen for the moment. If I press the right button, it would make a big difference. So if I don't enlarge the screen, I can't bloody see what's going on. Okay, I've just had a thought. I wonder if I'm actually on my right account here. Yes, I am. Oh, I thought I really read that wrong. I read that so wrong. The iPad's a little too far away. I read that as Lee will be this eve. We may get on early as Willies are out. Obviously that's not what you were saying. But okay, right. Okay, I'm going to put 5 litres worth of fuel in the car because in time trial that's what we have. Now, to start off with, I'm going to make no changes whatsoever to the car other than the fuel and the tyres. I am not going to change anything else. I just want to go and see what the car is capable of on its standard setup and go from there. Alright, I shall finish my smoke and then we'll get going. Now, RP Glock, who is a viewer that has watched quite a few of my live streams, is very helpful towards pad users. Did mention to me that I should put a link to my YouTube channel on my Twitch. I think I've done that. I did add it onto my profile, but I don't know whether it works or not. So feel free to give it a try and let me know if it works. Alright, sip of the old Joe coffee, that is, not someone next to me called Joe. Right, so let's go and see what the car handles like on its base setup. And we know that the lap time to beat is a 1:21.9. Now it's going to take me a few laps to get warmed up into driving, so to be honest I haven't been awake very long, but I just want to get a feel for how the car's behaving, what it's going to be capable of around here. Because ideally, before you go playing about with setups, you do want to sort of work the car up to its limit, work out where you feel the car should be doing better, and then work on that, rather than just going in, playing about with the setup so that you can push it to the limit, because you may you're going about the setup the wrong way around that way, really. Now, I haven't used DRS on this lap because I just want to see how the car's handling in the corners. But obviously getting the gears right is going to make a massive difference, so using DRS will affect that. Okay, so let's just try and go and do a couple of laps, see what we can come up with. We'll probably make a few mistakes here. Now, I do already know that this car is a little bit twitchy down here with DRS open, so you may have to open it, close it, open it, close it. Oh, that's wide. Now, surprisingly, the rear end's feeling a little bit slidey. And the front end's not quite turning in how I would like it to. But that could just be because I'm going too quick. So at the moment we're miles off the time with a couple of errors. I'm overheating the rear tyre. car's definitely not feeling very balanced at the moment. And by that I mean the front and rear end kind of don't feel connected. They're fighting against each other. And both rear tyres are red now, which is not good. Now I'm going to have a bit of a cool down lap here, just to get those rear tyres back into a decent temperature. It could be worth actually, yeah, up at 250 degrees on the rear end, so no wonder that they are overheating. And obviously the more that they overheat, the less grip you're going to have. So we're just going to try and have a bit of a cool down lap, get the temperatures back in. And one of the problems with doing this is the rear temperatures will come down, but there's a good chance the fronts might as well. The rear tyres are definitely coming down in temperature now, which is good, down into the 230s. Do need them to come down a bit more, really. Quite possibly, Steve, but I haven't done anything on the setup yet. I'm just taking the car as standard at the moment. I am going to look at setup in a moment. I just want to see what the car's capable of on the standard setup, and then I'm going to go through setups. Okay, so the rear tyres are coming into temperature much more now. There's a little twitchy over there then. See how we do here. Well, that was my best lap so far, but it's a 1:29, so we've still got a lot of time to find. Right, okay. Now I'm going to go and have a look at playing about with the setups, because obviously we're about 7 seconds off the lap time I really need there. The car's not feeling perfectly balanced, but the gears may have seemed a little too long, but I'm not going to alter those for the moment, because in time trial you can have no damage on. So there's a couple of tricks that you can do. I'm going to give away my biggest secret now, to help you go faster, and that is the radiator. Now the radiators are the main means of cooling an engine, with an open setting allowing more air to be passed to it, and a closed setting meaning less wind resistance and therefore more speed. Many cars have a water temperature gauge, so monitor that to determine if the radiator should be opened more. A track with long straights and cooler weather conditions will need this to be opened less, for example. Well, if you haven't got mechanical damage on, you ain't got to worry about your engine blowing up. So if you just turn it all the way to the left, you get a massive increase in power. It's the equivalent of turning a boost up, basically. The problem is, if you use this setting, then go into a race that has mechanical damage on, you're going to blow up your car. But that is does make a big difference, and hopefully to try and show that, I'm going to go straight back onto track and see what sort of lap time we can do with that. Now we were getting into 6th gear just and using a little bit of it, so let's see if it has actually appeared to give us more speed. It'll probably turn out that around here it doesn't. Oh, that one, the car will blow up. But I have done it at other tracks and it does work. Wide there. Back end wanting to go. So there's half a second without driving any differently, and to be honest, I actually feel I went slower through the old hairpin because of the line that I took. So we've got half a second straight away. Now the gears are still a little bit too long, but before I go and alter those, hang on, I'm on rain tyres. Right, let's change that bloody thing. That's going to make a rather big difference. That's not bad for a rain tyre. Right, okay, let's go see what I could do on a slick tyre. Jesus Christ. Fucking rain tyre. Bloody hell. No wonder the rear end was overheating. Oh, well, let's see what we can do on a slick tyre then. But we did gain half a second on the wet tyre. With that, a little boost. Right, we'll have to see how this handles. I mean, it was very, very drivable on the wet tyre. The thing is, I kind of got used to how it was handling on there, but that could explain why the car didn't feel very balanced. I have to be careful now, because there's a good chance I'm going to steer too much because of what I was just used to. Can't believe I was doing that on the rain tyre. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, the rear end definitely feeling much grippier now. Ooh, it is still feeling a little bit unbalanced though. Now some people may be wondering how I can say that it feels unbalanced, and basically the way I've got my settings at the moment, through the wheel it gives a good feeling of what the front's doing and the rear is doing. So if you're having to make a lot of corrections or your car is sliding around too much, that's what I mean. For example, you turn the front end in, it doesn't really turn in where you want it to, and then the rear end's all over the place. That's the unbalanced feeling of it. Tell you what, I won't be happy though if I can't beat that 28.8 on the dry tyre. Stay on the tarmac, thank you. Oh, that's too much curb. Okay, well that is a little more like it. But there is still plenty of changes we can make to this car, which I will make. Oh, it's going wide, no! I was half a second up then as well. I'm going to carry on. Sector 2 is going to be poor. I'm just interested to see if we can improve on Sector 3. Yeah, we lost 1.2 seconds there. Now this is a car that you, on the standard aero settings, you can be quite aggressive on the exit of some corners with the throttle, but the aeros are too high for my liking at the moment. Okay, so we've got half a second there, plus whatever we could have gained in the in Sector 2. So we're into the low 24s now already. You're not right, I was a muppet. I can't believe I put it on the rain tyres to start off with. Although you'd have been impressed if I'd have beat the 121s on rain tyres. Right, okay, excuse me. I do feel that the aeros are a little bit too high. And it's why I've not changed the gear ratio yet, because there's no point shortening the gears if you're going to take aerodynamics off, because if we take aeros off it's going to benefit the gears. Now I'm going to take a bit of a risk here. We're going to go for a big jump. We're going to half the aeros. I can't really half this, so let's go to 1 and 2. Now this is probably going to be too low on the arrows, but we'll see how it is. Now for anyone that has recently joined, I'm doing a bit of practice here so that I can go into time trial at Donington Park. After that I'm going to be going to Imola. That's a track that I do like Imola, and I want to see how this car is around that track. Now as I'm going to be driving around here, the things I'm going to be focusing on is, can the front end still turn in how much I want it to with 1 on the front arrows, and can the rears handle being on 6. Now I think the rears may struggle a bit, but we'll see how we get on. See, that's the lack of front arrows hurting me there on the brakes, and doesn't want to slow. Well, it's lack of both arrows on the brakes and doesn't want to slow down. Now if you do go changing the level of arrows, what I would suggest is, if you try driving it how you were when you had higher arrows, you'll find it probably won't work if you go too low. But if you adjust how you're driving, you may be able to still get it to go around the track. The question then will be, what sort of lap times are you doing? So I'm at the moment going to try and drive it exactly how I was a minute ago, to see where it can handle it, where it can't handle it. So out there, the rear end was not too bad on the aggressive acceleration. He's struggling a little bit mid-corner. Now lower arrows with the DRS open, it's twitchy down here. But the front end is still making it into the corners, or at least that one. You know what, it's not feeling too bad. It is a little bit on edge. Struggling there though, it's twitchy. Come back. But if you actually look at the sector times in the top right corner, you'll notice that I was half a second up in sector 1, but that would actually only have been 1/10 up had I completed that last lap that I did on the higher arrows. So at the moment we've got a 1/10 gain through sector 1 on the lower aerodynamics. Oh, we didn't like that. As I'm going down there, I am hovering my button over the DRS switch, so that if it is starting to get a little too twitchy I can close it, but I was a little too slow on getting that one closed. But that is a difference. I mean, with the higher aerodynamics I didn't really have to worry too much about that down there, whereas with the lower arrows it's definitely a concern. Steer slightly too much, it's spinning. Hit a bump with too much steering on, it's spinning. And when I say too much steering, it could be normal amount of steering, but because of the low arrows it's too much. Right, let's see if we can actually get a clean lap in here. All the signs everywhere. The rear end's definitely struggling in that corner for the braking. That was a bit twitchy. Oh, see, this level of aeros is just making the car much more difficult to drive. Excuse me. I could sit there and play about with the whole of the setup, but ideally I want to get an aerodynamic level that I'm comfortable with. Then I can look at other areas of the setup, and then I can perhaps re-evaluate the aerodynamic level. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the front aeros up to 2. Now the rears weren't too bad. Obviously it started on 13, we went to 6. So let's go sort of in the middle. 10. We'll see how we get on with 2 and 10. Pervitar, are the top LEDs just bling bling? You know what, I had wondered previously what they were for, and I think what it is, I could be wrong, but I think what it is, you got 2 rows of LEDs, and I think one is how many laps you've got and another is how much fuel you've got. I could be wrong on that. Now with me not having fuel usage on at the moment to match time trial, it's probably not going to move about a lot, but I know that around this track in this car you're going to use around about 2 litres a lap. So the bottom green dots could say that we've got 2 laps of fuel, or perhaps the top row says that you're running out of fuel basically. But because I'm not in a race, it's difficult to know for sure. I have spotted them a couple of times and tried working out what they are for, but I haven't done that many races in this particular car. I mean, there is half a chance as well that one of the top row could be position. I'd be surprised if it was, but I do know, I mean, there was a race that I was doing in this car, and the bottom row was full of green, but I mean, at the end of the race I was trying to think back, okay, what was it for? And I do remember that the longer I went on in the race, the lower or the less green lights there was. So I do think that one of them could be to do with fuel. Right, now I think on this lap that's coming up, I'm just going to take it easy and get those signs out of the way on the way down to the old hairpin. Okay, so the bottom row has now gone on to 5 lights of 5 green lights. So maybe we're wrong with, or I'm wrong with what I thought they may be. But it is something that I am going to try and work out what they Oh, well, that's not put that in a better position. Yeah, I will try and work out exactly what they are for. Okay, now they're positioned slightly better for me. It could possibly be temperature. I mean, the top one could, I guess, be temperature. Given the setup change that I've made, it could perhaps be saying warning, but so as one way to try it would be to take this particular engine setting I've got onto track and see if it did go up and up and up and then blew up. I mean, you might be right there actually. The top one could be fuel. I mean, at the end of the day, usually red lights mean warning. So the top one could be fuel, and the bottom one could be, I suppose, temperature. I will do a bit more research on that at some point, but with what I'm trying to do at the moment, I'm not going to focus too much on that because I haven't really got to worry about engine temperature at this time. Okay, now with the front aeros on 2, that's definitely feeling a bit better, and the rear aeros on 10, it's definitely feeling much more stable. Also, with the level of aeros that are on at the moment, gave me the confidence to take both of those hairpins in second gear instead of in first gear. Annoyingly though, at this moment in time, it feels like I've lost a bit of the force feedback, which is a bit frustrating, especially when you're working on or driving off every little twitch and bump. See, like that there, I had no idea that was coming because I had no bloody force feedback on it. But I do know that you can solve it by jumping back to the track. Okay, so the aeros there felt pretty good. I think we can get much more improvement on the lap time from that. So because the aeros are feeling good, I'm now going to have a look at adjusting the gears. Now, because we've got a final drive bar, adjust that rather than the individuals, because if you get them wrong, it's a pain in the arse to get it back. So may as well just knock that to the left one. It'll level out the gears for you. Thank you very much, Pervitar. So top one is fuel, and we got there in the end, and the bottom one is oil temperature. What was I going to say? Yes, with the gears, if you adjust the final drive, then it balances out the gears for you. Whereas if you adjust them yourself and then go to change the final drive, it's very easy to get them at the wrong lengths, the wrong ratios, I should say. Now with the gears being a little bit shorter, I'm going to have to be careful about what gear I go down to for corners, because it can very, very easily just snap on you. I lost a lot of time through there. Went back to try in first gear. Was on the grass, and it lost me a lot of time compared to using second gear. This is one of the advantages of being in practice. You can try many different things, adjust many things, whereas in time trial you're pretty much stuck to what you can do with the car. I am fairly happy with how the aerodynamics are making the car feel at the moment, but there is still a few changes that we can make. Gears are still perhaps a little bit too long. Well, it's the first time I've been able to get up into 6th and use 3rd for turn 1. Okay, so there's nearly a second off the lap time. So far the changes we have made are helping us out a bit. So let's go and have a look at what else I may wish to change now. I mean, the brakes, they don't feel too bad. Steve, if you're still watching, I'm going to do that thing last. Okay, ride heights. Looking at this, the ride heights are quite high here. So this is something that we are going to have a look at. But at the same time, this circuit is quite bumpy, so going a little bit too low on the ride height could be problematic. Now I am just going to quickly make myself a smoke. But for those of you that have perhaps only recently joined, I am doing time trial. Well, I'm going to be doing time trial. I'm in practice at the moment in preparation for time trial. I know what lap time I need to get close to, so we're just working on a bit of setup. Things I've changed at the moment is taking it off the rain tyres and putting slicks on. Taking the fuel out to 5 litres worth of fuel to match up what you get in time trial. I've then reduced the aerodynamics to 2 on the front and 10 on the rear. They started off with 3 and 13. I haven't adjusted any of the camber angles or toe angles or anything like that yet, or the ride heights or spring rates. The ride heights is going to be the next one that I'm going to change. Excuse me. I haven't adjusted any of the bumps or the differentials, but I have altered the radiator. Gears I have also adjusted. Now I could go a little lower with the gears, but for the moment I'm going to leave them as they are because they felt fairly good around quite a few of the corners, and also if changes we're going to make are going to help us go faster, then we've got the room there in the gear ratio to use the speed. If we top it out now but we can go faster, we're going to have to adjust the gears again. Now I'm not going to spend all day working on setup here. Hopefully we'll make a few changes, get close to the top time, and then go and give it a bash. It may take doing other setup changes on the car and thinking about it. Here's one that you can do. If you've got no mechanical damage on the brake duct, open the brake duct to aid cooling of the brakes if you find they are overheating on track. Excuse me. Be mindful though that this may have a side effect of increased aerodynamic drag and reduced downforce. Now you can close the brake ducts quite a lot and get less aerodynamic drag, meaning you'll go faster. Move it too low, you cook your brakes. If you can do a 1 lap wonder, you can maybe be able to get away with it. But I think mine started on about 65 here, but I could probably reduce this to about 50, but it means that if I go and do lap after lap after lap after lap, on about lap 3 the brakes are going to be cooked, so you have to back off, cool them down. But it can help you with a bit of straight line speed. Now if it's realism you're after and wanting to be able to do a 50 lap race, make sure your brake ducts are open enough to keep your brakes cool. Okay, so ride height. Now the ride height is quite high here, it's set very high. Let's see what lowest is. I mean 40 mil. I mean that's 4 centimeters from the ground basically. That would be way too low. On average I tend to knock off about 5 mil as a standard. Knock off 5 mil, see how it is, and then go again. You may be able to knock a bit more off, you may have to raise it a little more. You will notice that although all these 4 are not in line, the rear is still higher than the front, giving a rake angle. Okay, now we've got all the spring rates and stuff and the sway bars. Now the sway bars, they can help you with oversteer, understeer in different corners, but personally this car doesn't really suffer too much with oversteer or understeer until you get rid of lots of downforce. I wouldn't necessarily advise getting rid of lots of downforce in this car, because the downforce is what allows you to drive it fast. But we'll play about with something else that should give us some speed later on. So we will go and see how the reduction of the ride height there, how it copes with it. Places it could struggle is after turn 1 going down the hill. We could end up getting the same effect as we had when I lowered the aeros. Because we've got a lower car, it'll have more effect when it gets on the bumps. Some of the curbs, it may not like it. The old hairpin, hopefully I'll be alright on the apex, but on the exit, if I get too much on the curb, it could easily spin it. And the left kink, under where the bridge used to be, I'm able to take that with the DRS open at the moment, but with a lower ride height I'm going to have to be cautious of the curb on the left, because if I clip it too much it will spin me round. And then as we go up the hill again, it's quite bumpy and it is uphill there, so the car is already pressing into the ground, so with a lower ride height it could struggle, and I do like to use a lot of the curb on the right hand side, so again it could struggle there. Same with the next corner. Through the chicane it shouldn't be too much of a problem because it's quite flat through there, and through the last 2 corners again it shouldn't really be a problem, but it's where the hills are that lowering the ride height could struggle here. Now I'm going to listen out for how much it sounds like the car's bottoming out. But if it does sound like it's bottoming out but the car's still handleable, new word made up there, then I may just stick with it. If it doesn't sound like it's bottoming out at all, then I may feel that I can drop the ride height even more. Now this warm-up lap I am still smoking, so don't expect me to go too quick. I'm not going to use DRS either, so I just want to see what the car's going to be like down the hill. It actually wasn't too bad there, no more bumping than I would expect, although it may handle very differently with the DRS open. Now obviously the main advantage of lowering the ride height is its free downforce. Go too far though and it's a free crash. See, ride height's no problem through there in the flatter part. I'm still not on a hot lap because I'm still smoking, but we'll see how we'll get on. It's not easy to drive fast when you've got smoke in your eye. Oh, too much throttle offline there. Right, put my smoke down. But on those 2 laps there, I wouldn't say I had any issues at all with the ride height having been lowered. It actually made me think, I may actually be able to lower it a bit more. Now if you are able to lower the ride height and obviously get the free downforce, I can feel the additional grip it's giving me through the steering wheel. If you've got more grip mechanically, you can reduce your aerodynamics. Doesn't mean it's always going to work, but it is always worth having a look at. First time up into 5th gear there, so we're able to take the previous corner a little bit faster. Bit too much curb. Obviously if you do take too much curb it is going to struggle. Too deep on the brakes. And again, too late on the brakes. Not enough brakes that time. Okay, so not a massive improvement on the lap time, but to be honest, I don't expect a massive improvement on the lap time when adjusting the ride height, because it's giving you more downforce. More downforce often means a bit slower, because it's a fine balance between everything. But we can definitely improve on that. Whether you make a 1/10 gain, a 2/10 gain, or a second gain, every gain counts. Now for the ride height, it actually felt pretty good there. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to knock another 5mm off, and we'll just see how it handles there. I would expect that the next 5mm off is going to make it fairly undrivable. I think it'll be too low. Now we are bottoming out a bit down the Craner curves, heading into the old hairpin. But personally, I expect that. Given the nature of those couple of corners, and even through the old hairpin, I expect to hear a little bit of grounding through there. But we'll see how lowering the ride height that little bit more affects us. See if it's any more drivable or not drivable. I mean, if it starts bottoming out on what appears to be a fairly flat straight, you know it is potentially too low. Now obviously these setup changes I'm making here as well, it is for a car that's got 5 litres worth of fuel in. Now if I found that this is drivable, if you go and whack 50-60 litres in, you may find it's not because of the additional weight. So you do have to bear that in mind when it comes to ride height. Oh, it didn't want to slow down there. Now you may think some of the moments I have are down to ride height. I will let you know if I think they are. Like that little spin there, it wasn't, I just had too much throttle on. Excuse me. At the end of the day, you don't know if you can use more throttle unless you try it. I expect it to get very tricky down here. Actually wasn't too bad. That grinding I expect, and all the way through there. I'm surprised at this so far. I actually expected the additional 5mm to make it completely undrivable. Obviously we're not up on the first sector because of how slow we was around turn 1. Oh, DRS. Oh, you donut. Do not open DRS when turning. Right, let's try and build up to some speed. Okay, from here on in, I could do with a little bit of help from the viewers, because while I'm driving I can't keep an eye on my speedo. So what I would like you to do is to keep an eye on what speed I get down this straight here, and then down the back straight as we head towards the hairpin, and let me know what top speeds we are hitting. That's for reference for a change we're going to make in a little while. So top speed down this straight, if you will. Now struggling for timing now on sector 1, so keep making a mistake through turn 1. In that occasion I had to go down to second gear, whereas I want to keep it in third on the revs. Oh, it's too deep, too slow, too wide. We were up by about 3/10 and now we're down by a massive amount. That's rather frustrating. That lost a lot of time in that last sector. Now I do think that the ride height is possibly a little too low, so let's have a quick look. Thank you very much, Pervitar. Those two numbers are going to be very important for a setup change we're going to try very shortly to see whether we improve on that or not. Okay, let's have a quick look here. Is there anything here that I feel that I want to change? I don't know if I want to change the aerodynamics. The ride height is possibly a little too low, but you know what, I'm going to stick with it for a moment. So I was improving on my lap time there. Right, okay, we'll do the change now, and at least then it's a direct relevant one. This is something that should not work, but in most cars I've done it on, it has worked, and it really shouldn't. And Pervitar, this is where your numbers come in as to whether we now go any faster. Now obviously this is the only change I've made excuse me on that time into the pits. Now there is a chance that we may beat the previous best lap time, but we should have beat it on that last lap anyway. So at the moment, more importantly, is what sort of speeds are we getting down the straights. Big twitch there. And there's half a second off the lap time. It was actually up to about 8/10 until I had the twitch around the final corner. Now if you actually look at how hot the brakes are there, and that's just from having the brake ducts at about 50%, and they're running up to 1800 degrees. So doing that, it can cause a massive brake fade. Got on the grass a bit there, so I had to go down a gear. It's going to cost us. It has. Cooked it a little bit too much there. Right, we're going to let the brakes cool down, get everything, all the temperatures back down. It's going to jump back to the pits. So 149, 155, 150, 145. So there's a slight improvement on the straight line speed. I do think though that the ride height, now that I've done that particular setup change, I do think the ride height is perhaps a little bit too low. So I am going to knock it back up a couple of mil, just to see if that helps me out a little bit. The gears could probably also, I mean, let's give it a try. Let's see what it is like on the shortest ratio, the shortest final drive. I think it'll be too short, but we haven't topped the car out yet. Now, another reason why I've raised the ride height a little bit there is the car does feel like it's bottoming out a bit more, and I can't push through some of the corners as much as I would want. Turn one, it's one that it's very easy to get it wrong, but when you get it right, you should be really driving out of it like I did there. Now, ideally, I'd like to knock a little bit more rear aeros off. If I did that, it may help with the car bottoming out. But I want to get the ride height about right, and then try knocking some rear aeros off and seeing if it can still handle it. Oh, excuse me. Now, with this Donington track having quite short straights, the speed gain we've had is not a massive one. But on tracks where the straights are longer, the top end speed gain is more impressive, and also when I did do it, I did go 7/10 quicker straight away. I mean, surprisingly, the car is very, very drivable with that setting change that I made. Now, I haven't yet played about with the brakes. I will do that at some point, possibly. It's turned in too soon. We're able to drive out quite nice. Okay, so we've topped it out at 153, which is a little bit slower than we was doing a moment ago. So the gears are now just a little bit too short. But the gears felt quite nice around the rest of the track. Oh, you donut. So what I'm quite possibly going to do is just adjust 6th gear. Oh, it won't go any notch longer. You fine. Right, okay, so I'll have to go back to the longer drive. Oh, and it's a massive jump. Okay, so we're going to have to leave the gears on that particular ratio then. Because if I do that, 5th and 6th gear will meet the same speed. Oh, right, okay. We are then going to have to, I've got no choice but to lower this rear ride height a bit. No, ride height downforce. Now, we tried 6 earlier. It was a little bit too light. So let's go for 8. Let's see how we get on there. Hopefully it should improve the speed all around the track. The question is, can the rear tyres hang?